Need to make a post for Paigey.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what, because I don't have any new pictures of her. I don't have. We cannot connect to your server. Make sure the URL and stream key are correct. If the issue persists, try again later. What the? We cannot connect to your server. Make sure the URL and stream key are correct. Now we're live.
We're live?
Yeah, we're live. Oh my gosh. Maybe we need to hire a tech person, Leah.
It doesn't show live on my end.
Mine shows live on my personal page. So
there we go. I guess we're live.
Welcome once again to the Crazy Sauce Show of Are We Live? We should make a, it's kind of like that, like, is it cake? Are we live? Well, we're live. Welcome to I don't even know the date. Yes, I do. It's July 24th, the day I became a mom a few years ago. So the July 24th edition of Live and Unscripted, here as part of The Righteous Rebels. I'm your host, Jennifer Saunders, and your other host is?
Leah spelled Ligia.
Oh, wait, I forgot to do that. Jennifer spelled
JJ.
Anyway, we're excited to be here. Even if it says we're not live, we know we're live somewhere. And we're just going to go with it. If you are new to our broadcast, this is a pretty much weekly broadcast where we interview guests who we just meet in random places. It's telling me it can't start my broadcast on time.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh. And what's funny is I look over and it says press start. So we're going to get to play this fun game at the end. Yeah, if you're new to this and you don't know the fun game at the end, just hang on. You're about to find out. So this is a broadcast where I started I sent out messages and I'm like, hey, if you're a speaker, I want to know what's cool about you. And I met incredible people from across the world. And I loved it so much that now I meet cool people and I'm like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? And I love the stories that come from those interviews because they're live, like right now, and they're unscripted, like right now. So, and we do them a little bit in long form. We try to keep them to about an hour, but I love the long form format because, one, it teaches us to hold attention in a world where everything's teaching us to be inattentive or short attentive. And also this long form format allows us to really get in and ask questions and really find some heart and meat of a person and of their story and what it is they want to share, what their message is, what their purpose is, just who they are. So that's the basis of Live and Unscripted, and it's a program where we let inspiration be the guide. Often, that's really my life mantra, and I do my best to put it in everything that I do. And often I get nervous before we come on these programs. And so it's always really great time to bring in the breathing exercises. So we always start with a breathing exercise. Did you have something to say, Leah?
I was going to say, like, Live and Unscripted is very much about like having guests, but it's also morphed into just like other questions that you and I kind of play around with and explore and go into more depth with. So that's been a fun, I don't know, exercise or conversation that we get to have because often we don't know what we're going to say before we say the things. So
right.
The evolution of Live and Unscripted.
Right. And I appreciate you bringing that up because I thought it as the other part of Live and Unscripted. And then because I still get a little nervous and I get excited to get going, I forgot it. So thank you. Yeah. Sometimes Leah and I just have conversations around questions we've heard people ask or topics that have come up that we find fascinating and interesting. So that'll be kind of a mixture of today's broadcast. But we always start with breathing. It's a simple exercise. it's an exercise that if you don't do it often can actually take you aback, can catch you off guard. We're meant to breathe. Breathing oxygenates the body. It helps keep it healthy. It pushes all of that yummy air and O2 into the body and helps keep it healthy. An oxygenated body is a healthy body. And so it's also a way to become present right here, right now, in this moment. It's a way to let go of everything that's already happened in the day. And if you're like me, it's a lot of stuff that's already happened. And it's a way to let go of everything you think is going to happen for the rest of the day. And most of us probably have a lot of things left in our day. And so we invite you to join us in just becoming really present, again, where inspiration can be the guide, where we let the brain and the heart and the gut come into coherence. They slow down, they come into connection with each other. And it's a beautiful place that if you find yourself in moments of crunchiness, in escalated emotions, I always say when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. Breathing will help reverse that and slow things down so that you can make decisions that are responsive versus reactive, and decisions that are present, and decisions that are going to cause less, little, or no collateral damage. So, honestly, because I feel tender today, I asked Leah if she would, gosh dang it, if she would lead the breathing exercise so that I can just be present with it today as well. So Leah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm just going to keep it simple, just with breathing. And really, I really enjoy this exercise, just visualizing your breath going up through your body and like really feeling it. Actually, I was talking with my friend Sadie, and she was telling me about not breaking on the downward and just keeping the flow of the breath. So maybe we'll try that today. So you can take a downward gaze or close your eyes. I like to put my hand on my heart. I like to ground my feet just so like I can feel more grounded. Look at that. And then just take a deep breath, just nice and slow. Take your time. Pay attention to your breath going in through your nostrils and filling that space and going down into your lungs, filling up your lungs. Keep it going down, right down to your sit bones. And then kind of imagine it like looping back up to take the breath out. And you can do that a couple times. Just really, this time, go past your sit bones, go right down to your knees, past your knees to your shins, down to your feet. Let that breath go down to the floor, scoop it back up, and come right back out. You can do a couple of those rounds on your own and just like really feel the breath, fill your body. Take your time. Pay attention to how your body's feeling. What are you noticing? The chatter that's going on. Just watch how the volume of that chatter gets like turned down. Imagine the volume getting turned down and just sit in this space of just peace and calm. And when you're ready, come back up. That kind of stuff makes me think of images of wind paintings or wave paintings that I've seen where there's a lot of intricate detail and but that they like we can't see wind, so we see we just imagine what it would be like and how it feels like, and when I was doing that, I was like imagining the breath, like what would it look like if I were to draw it, so it was kind of neat that way for me. But for you,
what does it look like?
What it doesn't even have to be what it looked like. Like how did the breathing serve you today? What did you notice? How are you feeling?
Yeah, for me, I think I just needed to slow down for a minute. I just needed to feel myself breathe. And I got hot, and I'm like, I don't know if it's just because it's hot in my house, or if I know that the breath will do that when we intentionally, it can change things like that. So I just noticed like an increase in that, but just a slowdown, um, a little bit of a settling. I love when I can get quiet enough to feel like actually feel my feet on the floor. Really notice how my clothes sit on my body. Like I can feel certain places. But I just really for myself love feeling just the that happens. That that I actually can feel my mind slow down, and I can feel it start to come into connection, and it's just a beautiful feeling for me.
Oh, well,
So thank you for leading that today, and I, I I just really appreciate how you talked about that, and very good. And I also love the connectivity of the hand to the heart. So oh my gosh, okay, should we get into it?
yeah, let's do it.
So we were we have to say we were talking about we don't talk about it. We just say, "Hey, I've noticed this question that has come up, or I've noticed this topic come up in several places." And so that's kind of what has happened with today's topic is uh, just noticing the statement over a little bit of time, but even just recently of and even amongst ourselves is uh, I am nothing without, and then fill in the blank. So um, I am nothing without. I'm nothing without my job. I'm nothing without my kids. I'm nothing without my religion. I'm nothing without my health. I'm nothing without
My
uh,
looks, my
my
physicality.
yeah looks, physicality, my fans, my listeners, my viewers. Um, maybe it's employees. So fill in the blank, whatever that is, and ask yourself, have I ever said this self? Have I ever said this self to my question? Have I ever asked this question to myself or said it out loud to other people? And and how often? And when you say it, what is the thought process behind it? So we kind of just want to just riff on that a little bit today, and just kind of see where it takes us, and what other uh, close by topics. Oh my gosh, I am going to make up all kinds of words today. It sounds like what kind of topics that are closely related that it may just wander us into, because I feel some of those surfacing as well, and I'm excited. I'm excited for this. So, how about you, Leah?
Like how I would answer that question.
Yeah, how have you used that phrase? I'm going to say, how have you used that phrase against you?
Ooh, that's fascinating how you said that. How have you used that phrase against you?
And that's for
Um,
our listener too, or our watcher, our viewer.
yeah, absolutely. I feel I'm still in the process of learning a lot of that stuff and not identifying with those things, but um I think that used to be I'm nothing without my I'm gonna say my body. Because it what comes to mind is like how regimented I was about workouts and about like metrics in those workouts and achieving this and that and then I hurt my back and it really that also coincided with like I can't take time away from like I think I'm mixing that up.
It's so funny as you're talking. I'm thinking, I'm listening to you, and I'm like, I'm I'm answering the question for myself, and it is so crazy, like what my body is wanting to do. Like it's putting an itch on my ear. It's putting an itch on my chin and on my forehead. I can feel one on my arm. Like I have bug bites, but it's not even in those places. Just I'm feeling that energy move and really want my attention as you're talking. So you as the listener, like, what are you noticing? I would love to hear it in the comments. Like, as we're talking about this and as you're thinking about it, what is your body like? How is it trying to get your attention? Seriously, I try not to do this on air, but oh my gosh. Okay.
Keep going. I think the one that comes to mind the most is the just being very active and having a lot of pride in that, relating it to like how I keep sanity and fit and all that stuff. And then I hurt myself. I also wasn't great at the time with taking rest days and just pushing all the time. And then I hurt myself, and it was incredibly humbling because it's like I was really good at just doing as much as I could to fill every space that I had. And whether it was like baking or cleaning or looking after, the family stuff and working on this and that. And then I had to stop everything. And that was incredibly humbling for me, and realizing that if I don't take care of my body, it's going to make me take care of it by its own means. And I may not like it.
Ooh, I like that. Tell me more about, like, when you say it's going to get your attention and require you to take care of it in one way or another. Like, tell me more about that.
I look at, how often do we have people say that, they can go a long time and working long hours and doing all these things, and they're never sick. And then the second that they take time off or want to do something that's not incredibly go busy, the body's like, oh my gosh, finally I get to rest. And I'm going to, like, instead of you going off to do a whole bunch of activity and leisure stuff, and, that also requires a different level of go. You don't have to go to work. So I'm going to, like, get sick on your time off. And it makes me think of that. I just think of other places in my, just in how I moved, is if I didn't take time or didn't pay attention or tried to stuff too much into a day, then I would get sick, or I would hurt myself, or I would, like, something I'd have an accident, or, like, there's a way that your body's going to get your attention. So you make sure you're paying attention, like saying, hey, I need your attention here. You can't just run me all the time. So, and I think we really take our bodies for granted that way.
Oh my gosh. I really appreciate you bringing that piece up. I've had that happen in my own world of, like, you're going to rest or you start some new thing and your body's like, and no. Me, I want your attention. I've been trying to get it, and now I am going to get it in one way or another. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. Seriously, go ahead.
No, it just makes me think of, like, even in this past year, I had a and most of us, I think, have an issue with taking time to just rest and relax. And I'm nothing without being busy and doing 10 million things. Like, I used to have this idea of, like, how do people even unwind and watch TV and have these shows and all this stuff? Like, there's so much to do. And then finding myself in places of, like, judging myself for taking time to do nothing, and how disorienting that is, and how, like, you really have to check in. And if you're not doing it to yourself, you're doing it to others, and you're judging their downtime, and, like, oh, must be nice kind of feel, because you don't allow that for yourself for whatever reason. But I think that's another place that I know I've played that game of, I'm nothing if I'm not, volunteering all my time here. I'm nothing if I'm not doing what this person suggested because they know me to do that. And if I don't do it, then they're going to think less of me. Like all the reasons we do the things that we do. Are you frozen? Yeah, you're frozen. I don't even know if this is still on.
There, it's on. You froze a little bit.
I froze. Okay.
Yeah, your last statements of I'm nothing. Then we got a little bit of robotics. So if you can remember what you said, just their last maybe sentence or two.
I think I was saying I'm nothing if I'm not doing all these things. I'm nothing if I'm not showing up in the ways that other people think and have come to expect me to show up.
I love, and interesting that you say how other people expect, but then we take that on ourselves. But when you look at it, it's like we're still catering to other people.
I mean, how often, Jen, do we do stuff that we actually don't want to do, but we do it because other people want us to do it, or think that we should be doing it, or our role defines that we should be doing it? You know, like.
Well, and how often do we think that it's us wanting to do the thing without recognizing that it's been put upon us, and we start believing that for ourselves?
Yeah.
Did that sentence make sense?
So we put it on ourselves, but we think
we take it upon ourselves, but really it's other people putting it on us. But then we hear it as our voice that we're the ones who want that, or we're the ones who, it just becomes part of our belief system. So as you were saying, the challenge of doing nothing, the statement ran through my head. In fact, we need to make it into something, is that there's always something in nothing.
Okay, there's tell me about that.
Something in nothing. It's the, like I'm sitting here just noticing what my body is doing at the moment. It's so fascinating and a little bit irritating. Like I'm having to just take extra breaths because I'm wanting to like itch and pick and just my own. I think it's just the body memory, gosh dang, of learning to come into nothingness and how uncomfortable it can be, and how many moments of like just it feels almost anxious, and rocking moments of recognizing that, you know, for me it was the watching the things that have dropped out of my world in one form or another, and sometimes altogether in the last, I'm going to say 10 years. A job dropped out. So I'm nothing without my work, without training people inside of a gym or training people in their homes. I'm nothing without, I sing. So I'm nothing without performing or singing, and how that shifted. I'm nothing without running. I ran a lot. And it's interesting to watch like the phases that this stuff came in, and where running came into my world, and everything that it brought to me, because I ran without music. I really learned how to be inside myself. Even there was nothing but the motion. It was my meditation, but there was always something because I was asking questions. I'm nothing without running. I'm nothing without my kids. My kids are grown. They don't live in my state anymore. I'm nothing without my family connections. And probably the biggest one that I'm experiencing in the current moment is I'm nothing without my religion. That's been a really big one for me, and something that I'm moving through currently still, and recognizing just in those quiet moments, like learning to let my mind settle and to just sit and be still, and to recognize what goes on, and then to recognize beyond the what's going on of there's always something in the nothing, and that in the nothing is where we find our answers, like the inside answers. It's we find our own somethingness. We start finding out who we are. We start learning how to hear our voice. we start recognizing what's actually important in, I'm speaking for myself, but in having conversations with other people, this has been their experience as well. But in learning to just sit, I love going and sitting by the river and just watching the water move, or hearing the wind dance through the leaves in the trees, or watching the birds do their thing, or a snake slither by, or, whatever it is, watching all the things just be unhurriedly. There's no expectations. They just get to do their thing, and recognizing how that's a part of me. Um, and recognizing that in nothing, I have value. I have value without singing. I have value without running. I have value and worth without my religion, without momming the way that I'm used to momming, or the way that I'm used to being married. It just, there's always something in nothing. But the reality is, you have to be willing to sit in nothing. I'm not sure how else to, like, you have to let things fall away, and to trust that process. And it's scary. Like, it's not been easy. It's lonely. Um, but there's magic. There's magic in recognizing that none of the, and I've known this. I've just been getting new levels of the learning, that those things aren't me. They're just things that I do. They're things I get to experience. They're ways I get to interact with other people. They're ways I get to have lessons and learning and experience, but they're not who I am.
I love that. I think it's just challenging sometimes, because we're taught that from such a young age, whether it's through school, or our culture, our religion, like, or even the idea of, like, I grew up in a Latin home, and that, I'm sure it's the experience of a lot of people, but, like, you're nothing without a man, and they are the ruler.
That was mine as well. Yes.
Yeah, they're the rulers, and you cater to them, and and sometimes life shifts, and you come to a place where that's not, I'm not sure how to talk about this, where things shift, and you're in a place of, like, learning your value outside of depending on a man, or that you still have value even if you're not a man, or if you're not in a relationship. I even think that's the reverse as well, like, that you need to be attached.
Absolutely.
And how some people, they just can't be alone, because they're nothing without a partner.
Yeah. Or again, fill in the blank. Religion, music, exercise, body, looks, fill in whatever that is for you. I appreciate you sharing that was your thing, like, of a man. I very much probably had similar, even up until recently, still some of that belief system wants to stick in there. And how has that, how do you feel like that has affected you, as far as, like, decision making, and and you can do the, whatever the fill in the blank is for you, but how do you feel like it's affected you in moving forward, or standing in your power, or using your voice, or really recognizing or not recognizing who you are when you have that belief?
Well, as you were talking about, like, the running stuff for you, and I think of the changes in exercise for me, or the changes in relationship for myself as well. I noticed there's, like, there in that process is there's a lot of judgment, especially in the beginning, when that stuff starts to change, and what are people going to think of me, and you think of your relationships that you've made in those roles, and You start judging yourself and what am I without that? And I think you have to redefine your whole way of living, because you base everything around that thing. So for example, for me, I deferred all my decisions or filtered them through the lens of my husband, and I catered to that. Like everything I did was filtered through that. I don't know, through that perspective. And it was really disorienting for me, especially because I didn't recognize until I was out of and had some distance that I was still doing that, even though he wasn't actually saying the words. Like I was still hearing him in all my decisions and everything that I did. And there's times where I still hear that, but the difference is now I'm learning to recognize what's actually my voice and what's his voice, and what I get to decide who I'm going to listen to, and even just recognizing, oh my gosh, I have a voice, I have opinions, I want to do things a different way, but I still have to navigate through my perception of what his judgment of those decisions is going to be. The difference is I don't have to stay there. I can recognize it and move on. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing it, because I do think that that's something that's probably familiar to lots of people and to those who will listen. I had a question formulating as you were talking, and now I'm like, what was that question? I think it was something along the lines of, how do we perpetuate that belief or that old system for other people, like in how we interact with people. I recently, when I was up in Canada with you, like one thing that really stands out is I had asked a girl named Jod, like, "Hey, are you still powerlifting?" And it was so interesting to watch her response. And I totally saw myself as she was talking, because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I did not mean to bring out that reaction and those feelings in her." I had no idea that she wasn't currently lifting, but it was just all of the. We feel like we have to make excuses because we're not doing the thing, because that thing, we've made it who we are. And was so, it was just fascinating. And then recognizing, like, wow, is that what that looks like when someone's asked me those things about myself, and we feel like we've got to make excuses or reasons why we're not doing it, instead of just saying, the season for that isn't right now, and I'm doing other things. And that was my response to her when I started recognizing what was going on. It's like, yeah, sometimes the body just needs a break, or the mind just needs a break, or the soul just needs a break. And
Absolutely.
it means nothing about you if you're not doing the thing. It just means you're not doing the thing. It doesn't define you. It's not who you are. It's a thing.
But it's hard when people like start looking at you that way.
Absolutely. When that's the only ways they see you.
Well, and it's like, I think there's so much like, I think people project on you too, like, oh, you're doing something amazing, and they make it a big deal. And then it's like, you almost feel embarrassed because you're not holding up to whatever expectation or way that they see you. I think it comes back to what I said earlier of like, we do things a lot of the times because because of our perception of what someone else is going to think if we stop doing it. I appreciate you bringing that up, because I had asked her as well, just, wanting to be supportive and get to know her. And I definitely got, different, just about it's a season to do different things. But I think because her boyfriend is still doing the thing, like, she's like, well, that's fascinating. I didn't realize that she had given you a similar response that way.
Yeah. Well, and because it's what I don't know her that well. I've met her on one other occasion, or is it two other occasions, and there wasn't a lot of conversation. I knew it was something that she was doing, and so it was the thing that I knew to attach to her,
Yeah.
and to ask about. It was the common thing, but
It's so funny. It makes me think of this girl. She made this proclamation once that when she was deciding what to do to school, and she was a teenager, and she made this proclamation that she wanted to become a vet, and she was going to go to Africa and go work with giraffes. And then that story stuck with her, like just and people would ask her years
oh
later.
man,
That story
yeah,
still sticks with me because I'm like, one, because it was an ambitious thing that no one else had made such a bold proclamation that way. And it's, for me, I wanted to like let her know that I encouraged that and that I was supportive of it. And but life shifted for her and she didn't end up doing that. And there's almost like a disappointment of like, why can't you just forget that I said that? Because that makes her have to look at, like, that's fascinating.
right. It's like, I'm like, how do I want to say that? We're all growing and developing, and sometimes we say things as and because we do have ambitions. We're taught to have ambitions. We're taught to have goals and dreams and all the things, and to have the 5-year plan and the 10-year plan and the quite frankly, I think all that stuff is bullshit. And the reality is, you don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. And if your plan works out,
Awesome.
awesome, absolutely awesome. But the reality is, uh, somewhere in that 6 months, in that 1-year plan or whatever, you're going to have twists and turns and whirly doos and fallen holes, and maybe you're going to like fly on some of it, and maybe some of you are going to actually hit the actual mark, but others of you are going to hit dots and spots all the way around it. And we have got to learn to recognize that that is part of being human. That is part of progression. That is part of learning to know yourself, and just part of lived experience. And to be really excited that we hit anywhere near the mark, because there's so much growth in all of that journey. I used to hate that statement, like, the joy is in the journey.
Sorry, say that again.
The joy is in the journey. And really, I was like, what? Why do people say that? And then I recognized, I climbed the Grand Tetons, and I really, this was like in my early 30s, I really understood for the first time what that meant. Standing on the top of that mountain, 13,770 feet, and looking at the view around me, but recognizing that, wow, that was amazing. It was all of the stuff that it took to get there. And yeah, that was one of those places where we actually hit the mark. But there were a couple times that we climbed and we didn't make it to the top. But it was our intention. It was also our goal. But because it was intention, getting to where we got, there was so much amazingness along the way. And if I had just been like, the top is the only thing, that
You would have
then
missed
all
it.
of that would have been lost. And the reality is, on the climbs that we didn't make it, I gotta hang with my little sister. I gotta climb with a 10-year-old. I gotta freeze my butt off. I gotta all of the things and the learning that came from that. And I I don't even know why I got on that tangent, because we
Because
gotta let people off the hook.
yeah.
Stop holding people to something that they say in one space, and then as they're growing, they recognize, like, wow, that's not really the path that works for me. And they make I guess a course correction per se, or just a change in direction, and celebrate where they're at in those moments. I agree with you. We've got to let people off the hook, and if they say they've changed, just be like, just ask questions, get curious, find out more, but don't add to the, I can't think of the word.
Angst of that, because I'm like, give them a safe space to not have to make excuses, and just what you said there of like, it's okay that life changed and the priorities changed, and like, crap, you were going to go to Africa, but then you fell in love and decided to start a family. Like,
right?
It's not linear. And I think we have this idea of like, we have to have this all figured out and we have to follow this path. And it's so suffocating to what our souls actually want to experience. We're not here to, Jen, when you were talking earlier, it made me think of like how the birds just be and the animals they're just being.
They just do their thing.
Yeah. And we're here to just be. I think of some of the things that we've been listening to and talking about is just like, we've been taught so much to hustle and grind. And I heard the best analogy of this, so I'm going to share it here. I heard it on a Kyle Cease video, but he talks about like the caterpillar, and the caterpillar is going along through life.
Yeah.
And there's like this stick, and he's climbing this stick, and the stick happens to come up against a wall. So here's the caterpillar here, and like the victim caterpillar, he's like, oh man, this always happens to me, nothing ever works, and blah blah blah, and he goes back down the other way. And then the hustle and grind caterpillar, he's like, I'm gonna climb this wall no matter what, and he starts like trying to muscle his way up the wall. And then the one that's allowing whatever to merge just sits and like relaxes into it, and lets time pass. And then before you know it, he's a butterfly, and the wall isn't even an issue anymore. Right. And how often we're like rushing into decisions, and we're rushing into like to get to some sort of like finish line that's always freaking moving.
Absolutely.
When really, it's like you said at the beginning, is like, our answers are inside. Like, we don't need to be rushing. We just need to be, so we can actually slow down enough and get quiet enough to hear what our is saying.
Right. And why are we going for that goal? Like, do we even really know? Why are we seeking for the accolades and the hurrahs of other people? And I mean, I don't know. I really think there's something beautiful about sitting in nothingness and finding the somethingness of those answers. It as you were talking about the caterpillar and all the things, I just think about, in my opinion, how, and I love personal development. Do not get me wrong. Like, I love it. It is one of the things that I came across in my first or second year of college that really was one of those pivot points. It was the spike in the ground that took a shift and changed my world to a whole different way of thinking and seeing different perspective and having different verbiage and just knowledge and learning. But I feel like it's taken some really wacky pushes. It's not necessarily about personal development. It's about achieving and success and all of the things. Granted, development comes along with it, but I just feel like it's I don't know. I don't know how to say that very well. It's not necessarily always a healthy thing anymore.
No, I agree. Well, you have?
Well, I just was gonna, as you were talking, I thought about, oh my gosh, like, we're talking about these things about, having a goal, and I don't believe in goals. I believe in intentions and just setting stuff out there. And really coming to that place of surrender, like the last caterpillar. Some days I'm good at it. Some days I really suck at it. And I want to go back to the old patterning of pushing and shoving and forcing and making things happen because I want to be something. I want my business to be something. I want the things. And then I feel like that. And I have to just go, it's not how things work. It's like I get this little tap that says, hey Jennifer, spelled JJ, like, that's not, remember, that's not how that happens. It's not how that happens. And it made me think of our story. And we met in India. We were there doing some speaking and had some cool experiences. And afterwards decided that we were going to do some work together and decided to like become business partners. And I was like, hey, I have this idea and I think it fits really closely with what you're doing. And here's blah, 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 let me tell you all the things. And you blah, 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 told me all the things. And we're like, let's figure this out. And the reality is we thought we're building a business. And in that journey of twists and turns and falling in holes and climbing mountains and all the things, we realized we actually were just building life. And the business is just a piece of it. And I never in a million years would have thought that was a dot around the endpoint. But looking back, in all of the whoop-de-doos and whirly-hoos and twists and turns, like I wouldn't give any of it back, even though it's been challenging in moments. And I've had to make really gut-wrenching decisions, and I've had to learn to surrender, and I've had to learn to breathe and really look at those places of sitting in nothingness and recognizing how many things fell away and that they had to fall away in order for me to be in the space so all of this could take place.
It's so funny you say that. I appreciate how you share the story, but you talk about the decision, and I often will push back of like, did we really have a choice? And I've had my perspective on that one way, but I was also reminded of a different way of seeing that. So I've always said, like, do we really have a choice? We're born at a certain time. We've had certain life experiences. Like, we were set up to make these decisions at pivotal points in our lives. Like, I often think of like, it's already done. Like, I don't have to
say that to me a lot. And I was like,
yeah, it's already done. Like, we think we're making these choices, but if we don't make these choices, we're robbing our soul of what it's here to do. And how do I know that? Because when we don't follow those choices, we feel a heaviness and an emptiness within us that we try to fill with a bajillion other things. Keep being super busy, shopping, overeating,
addictions,
working, name your addiction. We're all addicted to something, but we're trying to fill some sort of emptiness that we're feeling because we're not listening to what our soul is asking. So, I was listening to, it was probably a Kyle thing again, of like how many butterflies he has seen cut their wings to be caterpillars, because that feels safer. To follow your soul, to follow the callings of your heart, to trust that, to do what you said of surrender, that's freaking scary because it challenges everything that we know and everything that we've been taught. But then I'm like, and the mind wants to know, like, the mind needs a plan. We've been told we got to have a plan. You got to hustle. You got to, tell me what your 5-year plan is, but that doesn't work. It's like watching a movie. How exciting is knowing the whole premise of the movie before? Are you going to really want to sit down and watch it if you already know the ending? Like, that's kind of what when we're in a place of surrender, we're allowing it to unfold and be in an active state of creation versus autopilot. We already know what's going to happen. So, and we think, oh my God, something's wrong because I don't have control and I can't predict this and I don't know what's going to happen. And, we freak ourselves out. But the reality is that's how it's supposed to be. A bird doesn't think, I'm going to go find the worm at 7 a.m. and set my smartwatch to that time and go find the worm and it'll just happen to lay there. Like, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that in the animal world. And how sick we're making ourselves living like that in this world, because we're not designed that way. But we're going against a current because we're bombarded with all this like stuff that tells us that's wrong. But who's doing that? The beings that want to control, the beings that don't want us to know our limitlessness and our awesomeness. And my computer's going to die.
I'm hearing crashing and banging. Like, I'm noticing it's cloudy. Maybe there's thunder outside. it's that moment of like, there's truth being spoken. No, I really appreciate that. And I know that, in my own study of like 12 steps and things like that, that when we're disconnected from ourself and our source, uh, our goal is to really be inside of that connection. And it's not as hard to come back as we think. We just have to be willing to sit in the discomfort of it and to recognize that we're doing all of these things. We're putting in all of these like Mars bars and Hershey's and whatnot. And really it's Snickers. The Snickers is the connection. That may have been a really horrible analogy. And if it is, oh, well, it's live and unscripted. But what I'm saying is like, we're trying to find these things to fill the holes and the needs when really it's about us coming back to ourselves, learning to hear our own voices. And oh, that's what I'm like, there's something else I was going to say. Our souls are playful. Our souls are very playful, and they're very creative, and they need space, and they need quiet, and they need adventure in order for them to really be free. I keep thinking about, I can't remember if we talked about this on the live and unscripted we did 2 weeks ago, in the rainstorm. We've been reading a book by Osha and talking about how we've been taught. I was taught this, that idle hands or an idle mind is the devil's mind, when in reality, that's where God or source actually can do its magic, because then we can hear it. There's not distraction. And we've been taught that backwards. And as I have come to learn how to practice that, I find more peace. Do I still have discomfort? Absolutely. Am I still learning things? Absolutely. Are things where I would like them to be? No, they're not. Some of them are, and some of them are a lot closer than others. It's that learning to stay in surrender and staying in the nothingness and recognizing, like, what is the next step? What is the next step? As I'm talking.
Sorry, I apologize. My charger is broken, so when my computer dies, I'll be done.
Oh,
I apologize.
Can you come on your phone?
I can try. Go ahead, keep going.
All right. Let's put a new charger into stuff. As I was talking about that, like adventure and whatnot, it reminds me of, again, that climb when I climbed the Tetons and I really started to recognize things, and that in the middle of the night, we get up at 2 a.m, 1 a.m, and we have to climb by headlamp, and you can only see the distance of your headlamp, and you turn your head and you can see a few things in the darkness, but you can only see what's right in front of you. And we're only meant to see what's right in front of us, because we don't know how to deal with all of the other stuff yet. We may not have the maturity or the tools or the learning to deal with that stuff, and it would freak us out. I like climbing hills at night because I don't have to see the entire distance that I have to go and the incline with which I have to go. If I can just do the little bits at night, it's so much easier. And that's how this journey is meant to be. So that's my thought on that. You can't hear your sound. Oh, I think you're there.
I'm just super distracted. My charger just like busted a prong. So it was kind of doing something wonky, and it's done.
So speaking of having intentions and goals and knowing that things are going to not turn out how you think they're going to turn out, I don't really know how long we've been on here, because the start button still says start, and I know that we're live because it's over here. This is what we're talking about, and we could become really frustrated, and we could be angry and all of the things, but it's not going to serve us to do that. So it's take a deep breath, recognize that maybe this is what needs to happen for this broadcast. And maybe we've said what needs to be said. And we would love to hear from you. I am going to give Leah just a minute to see if she can come on her phone. But I think there's a lot to be talked about. Those are just a few of my just like random in the moment thoughts, and Leah's as well on the phrase and the belief system that we've all been taught of I'm nothing without blank, or I'll be something when, or I'll do this if this happens. You know, the all of those statements that take our worth and our value outside of ourselves and puts it in the hands of other people. That belongs right here, right now, in this space. You are magical spiritual beings having an existence here on this planet. Some people call it a meat suit. I call it a nurse suit. Some people, you know, it's your vehicle here on this planet. You're not the vehicle. You're not your truck. You're not your car. You're not your job. You're not your clothes. You're not the food that you eat, even though we've been taught that we are. You're not what you do. You are so much more than all of those things. And you are something even without any of it. Because you were magic before any of it. And learning to get in that quiet space of nothingness, where you really get the opportunity to experience your somethingness, is one of the greatest things. It's hard. It's challenging. My experience of that has been because I also was taught that in order to be something, you got to do something. You got to have this achievement or that degree or that experience or those things. And you got to do these grand adventures and the reality is I have found some of the greatest joy in putting my hands in a sink full of warm, soapy water and washing the dishes, or to sit with warm laundry out of the dryer and to fold it and to find joy in that, and to recognize that whether I fold the laundry or not, I still am me. And to recognize that without a regular job or without the running or the singing, that I have worth and value because it already exists in me. And that those things just add joy and pleasure and just depth to my lived experience on this planet. And that when I recognize those things, and this is something Leah and I talk about often, when we recognize those things, life opens up. Life lightens up. And life lifts up. So, where do we go from here? I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear how you experience some of those statements of I'm nothing without, or I'll be something when, or I'll do this thing if. What are some of those things for you? Stick them in the comments. You never know when something that you say is going to help another person. And that's the beauty of this as well, is having the bravery and the courage to say the scary things and to recognize that it's just part of lived experience. Leah's back. And that in sharing your own experience, you kick the door open for other people. Looks like we're going to still have a few issues. You kick the door open for other people to be real and to really experience humanity and the humanness of who they are, and that it's just normal and that it's okay. And that when we start doing that, it's a pretty bold statement I'm about to say, but it's really pressing in. When we do that, we'll see things like addiction and self-deprivation and mental illnesses, and labels start to fade away, because people won't be fighting against themselves, but they'll be able to just embrace who they are. They'll be able to embrace their differences. They'll be able to embrace the things that look different than other people around them. And I guess I can say that because I've witnessed that. I've witnessed that in my own world. I've witnessed that in people around me. In conversations that I've had with many people who struggled with some of these labels and addictions. And when they were able to just recognize their somethingness in the nothingness, and that they are absolute amazingness without all of the stuff, and they could normalize just being human and accept it, that stuff shifted. They didn't need to have it anymore. So I'm not a doctor. That is not prescriptive. It's just my own personal thoughts and opinions based off of my lived experience and the lived experiences of other people. I would love to hear your thoughts of how those statements affect you and how you have moved through them. I would love to hear how this conversation had influence on you today, how it affected you. Did it poke you? Did it bring you ahas? Did it spark light in you or desire to maybe do something different? So I think I'll just end this way. And that is, you're magic. You were always magic. You were magic before you were born. You were magic when you were born. You're magic when you were 3 and 5 and 8 and 10 and 12 and 65 and 92. You're always magic. It's never left you. It's just a matter of you turning back to it, learning to just sit and be with you, learning to let your soul have adventure and playfulness and creativity, and recognizing that in those things, all of the other stuff comes more easily because it's inspired, because it comes from the core of who you are and not from listening to the voices of what other people say needs to happen in order for you to be something. That's out there. It's the learning to come in here. And if you want to come play with us, reach out. Reach out, reach out. You can go to the Righteous Rebels Facebook group, which we will put this interview over on. It might be there. There's been some changes on our broadcast platform, so we'll make sure that it's there. We are in construction of a new website. So the website is therighteousrebels.com. I don't know that you can find it right now because, like I say, we're reconstructing that. Or if you know how to get a hold of us, because you have our numbers, reach out. Reach out. Come play with us. We play on Tuesdays and we play on other days. We love you. We appreciate you. We're grateful for your lessons and your learning and how you enhance our lived experience through your lived experience. Just keep going. Just keep going. And just keep going. You're not alone. You're not alone. Come join our tribe. Come join our community. Bring your magic. We're better together. So with that, I love you. And remember, be bold, be brave, be a rebel. We'll see you soon. And this is the fun part of trying to end this, because now I get to hit go live. We're going to see if it gives us a spinny spin. It's actually going to do it. There we are. We're live. And Leah has just rejoined in time for us to end.
Awesome.
Do you have anything you want to say why you're here? We're doing the ending the game by starting a live broadcast.
I have no idea. I'm not even sure where we were at. So let's get the chat while we were at it.
Leah, I appreciate the things that you shared. I basically just, I don't even know, because I don't even know. But pretty much I just ended with that. We love them. We appreciate them. We're grateful for their lived experience and how it enhances ours. And to comment, to let us know what they think, how this affects them. So,
well, I'd love to know how you would finish that sentence, or how that has changed for you in your course of your life and your experiences of like, where in your life did you really attach your worth and your value, and where have you noticed that shift, and where are you still attaching your worth and your value, and how can we shift that as well?
I love it. I'm actually just now seeing the comments, and our good friend and sister Luba has been on here for at least some of it, and she says you are everything, and I full on agree with that. And it made sense totally. I'll have to go back to that time mark, and we just nailed the last 28 years of her life. So Luba, thanks for joining us, and thank you again for you joining us. Leah, thanks for your shares. Yeah. Should we try the send out together?
Oh, I can hardly hear you. This is so annoying. Yeah, let's try that.
All right. Thanks again for the added adventure of how we have to end this right now by actually going live so that we can hit the end button. Remember, be bold,
be brave, be a rebel.
We'll see you soon.